Peace, y'all. I've been meaning to get around to this video for like so long. Life is just lifing, and I'm always so present. It's hard for me to stop and do shit like this, but I'm gonna start stopping and doing shit like this. So, I've been living in Costa Rica now for 3 weeks since I moved back. Um, and man, it's just everything. Okay. First, let's get into how I got here in the first place. Like, why Costa Rica? How did we end up here? How did we end up moving here? And a little bit of like what was going on prior to coming here. So, I was working as a nurse at UCLA. Absolutely loved it. I was in the ICU. It was like my dream job, my dream hospital. It was exactly what I had been manifesting for like the couple years up until it had happened. And then I'm like, I get it. I'm working and I did love it. Um, but it just, I don't know, it didn't quite fulfill me in the way that I thought it was going to. It was like, okay, I have this American dream. I'm doing all the things that people say you're supposed to do to be successful. And I was successful at it. But it just, like something was missing, It just seemed like it needed more depth, more meaning. Like I'm constantly in search of that. And so, yeah, something had been calling me to Costa Rica for like the last year. It just kept popping up on my radar, kept popping up like in my peripheral. Like I just kept seeing it, Costa Rica, Costa Rica, Costa Rica, and I'm like, what is it about this place? Like, let me just go check it out. So I went there for my 28th birthday last year, and I just fell in love with it. I was here for 10 days in Puerto Viejo, where I currently live, and I was just like floored by the energy. It really feels like you're going through a portal on your way here, and like you're in the portal once you're here, where the energy is just so heightened. It's just swirling all around you. You feel it off of everything and off of everybody. And so I was like, wow, like I feel so charged. Like nature, the sounds of the ocean, the birds constantly in the morning, all throughout the day, the monkeys. Um, so I just felt really connected to everything. Like I felt really connected to everything and everyone. I was having conversations that were so just beautiful and in depth. And I was like, wow, these are my people. Like these are people who are thinking like me and feeling like me and moving throughout life in a way that I do, like creating and exploring and questioning everything that we've been told. And so I was like, okay, they get it. Like it really felt like community, and it's a beautiful community here. Like everybody looks out for each other, everybody's sharing information, knowledge, resources. So I really love that as well. And then the dancing, oh my god, I'm not even like a nightlife person now, maybe a little bit more, but like I was dancing like every single night, because I loved how free the clubs were. Like you're just barefoot in the sand on the beach, like everybody's just letting loose, like just moving their body, just exchanging energy, and it was so beautiful. Not like how in LA where people want to stand around and look cute but not like dance or whatnot. So I really enjoyed that. I just love the freeness. Like I felt like I was so free to be. So, anyways, this was 10 days in July for my birthday. And by the end of the trip, I'm like, I don't want to go back to the reality that I had before. Like, I don't want to go back to the hospital. I don't want to go back and just be an employee for however long, and, you know, for this reward at 65 when I retire. I was just like, I don't see that for myself. Like I don't want that. And so I'm like, okay, so how do we make this happen? Like I always check in with myself. I'm always having these conversations and heart to hearts with myself. And I'm like, okay, so if this is what we're feeling and this is what we want, how are we gonna like go about this? And so like, what are the things that we need to do? I was like, okay. At the time I was like ending, not ending, but I had like a relationship that was like over, but like not really over. And so I was like, okay, I want to like wrap that up. Like I want to have closure with that, and I need to sell all my things in my apartment, and I need to quit my job. So I was in the ICU nurse residency program, which is a year long because I was a new grad nurse. And so I was like, I want to finish out my residency program. Like, I started this, I want to finish it strong. Like, I at least want to do that for myself. And so I did. I went back for 2 more months. So this was July, went back August, September. I graduated on September, I think it was like 28th. And then I left to come to Costa Rica on the 29th. So yeah, it was that fast. Like, it was that fast. When I know something, I know. Like, I listen to my intuition. I trust it. I trust myself. I trust God. And it just felt so right. It felt so good and just like the right thing to do. It just made the most logical sense. Like, if I do this thing, I'm going to be happy. And so that's usually enough for me. Like, I'm always wanting to be happy. I'm always wanting to feel good in my body and in my mind, spirit, my soul. And so being here had made me feel like that. And I was like, there's no question in my mind, no doubt that this is where I need to be. And so I did it. I did all those things. I sold my shit. I quit my job. Well, I put my 2 weeks notice in. And, obviously people are going to think you're crazy. Like, you're just going to give all this up and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't mind releasing anything to receive more. And a lot of times you have to release things in order to receive more. And I had already manifested that thing. It was something that I wanted. It was a life that I wanted, and I manifested it and I got it. And it's okay to do that, to manifest and get the thing that you asked for, and then realize, I don't want this anymore, or I want more, or I want something different. Um, I'm never afraid to pivot and to change my mind and to change direction. Like, that's never gonna make me feel any type of way. Like, it's not a failure. It's just a change in direction, and that's okay. Like, I think I'm gonna do that multiple times throughout my life. Like, I want an amazing life journey, life story where I'm creating every single chapter, co-creating every single chapter. And so here we are. um, Obviously, as y'all know, or most of you know, I came here in a relationship which ended the end of last year. And when that ended, things kind of like shifted. We had been here for 3 months, and things kind of like shifted energetically. And I don't know. I think I just like let fear creep in for a minute. Like, can I do this by myself? Like, is it gonna be the same? Is it gonna feel the same? Like, maybe I need to go back to work. Maybe I'm like frolicking too much and I got all that I needed to get out of it. I might talking myself out of like a good thing. And so I started applying for jobs. I'm like, okay, well, if I go back to the States, I don't want to go back to LA. I've already did LA. So I'm like, let's try Atlanta, like maybe another big city. It was between Texas and Georgia. So I was like, let's do Atlanta. So again, I manifest. I'm like, God, I want a job at Emory, the top hospital in Atlanta, and I want a new specialty. I was looking at specialties, and I was like, let me try oncology, breast GYN. Boom. I applied, and in 24 hours, I had the job. Like, I had the interview that morning, and I got the job like a couple hours later. It was, you manifest so quick here. You have to be very mindful about the things that you think, the things that you say. Like, manifestation happens like this out here. I'm telling you, it's a portal. So I got the job, and I'm like feeling good about it. I'm like, okay, so we're gonna go back in January. Whoopty whoopty woo. So I go, and I was supposed to start at the end of February. And so I'm like, okay, I have like a month and a half, almost 2 months of time of just leisure, which I was like, okay, this is good. Like, this little transition period before one life into jumping into the next one. I have some space to kind of just be and think. Um, so I was in Atlanta, and it was cold, and there was no sun for days. Um, and I was checking in with myself of like how I felt being back in the States. I'm like checking in like how do you feel right now? How does this feel? And I'm like, well, I'm not talking as much. Like out here, every time you leave the house, you're gonna have like so many interactions, so many beautiful interactions that like make you feel connected, make you feel loved, make you remind you that like, okay, I'm in community, and yeah, there's people that love and care about me. And there, it was like more phone calls, like texts, to friends and loved ones, but it was just more distance. And it was cold, so I wasn't going outside as much, or nobody was really going outside as much. So things were just like different. It was just very different. I didn't like that. I had to stay very active. Like I was in the gym. Um, yeah, I just had to keep up my routines, like doing yoga and things like that. Oh, no gracias. And doing things like that. So yeah, I was like, and then the closer it was getting to the time to work, I'm like, every time I'd be talking to my friend who's also a nurse, one of my best friends, I'm like, am I really going back to bedside nursing? Like, I would just say it out loud to myself, like, are we really doing this? I couldn't, like, I don't know. A part of me was like, couldn't believe it, and a part of me was like, for it, whatever. So then I'm like, sick of the cold. I'm sick of like being in the house. I'm like, I need to take a trip. Let me go to Puerto Rico so that I can kind of just get the feel of, being back in the Caribbean. I know it's different, but like, I'm like, I need to see palm trees. I need to see sun. I need to see the ocean. Um, I want to see that again. So I booked a trip for a week in Puerto Rico, a solo trip, mind you. Okay, so when I had moved to Atlanta, I was like, I'm gonna have this whole high rise moment. Like, I want floor to ceiling windows, a cute little studio in a city. I'm like trying to manifest all these things. I'm manifesting all these things, like calling it into my experience. I'm like, if I'm gonna do Atlanta, I want to do it bougie. And so I get to Puerto Rico. Um, I know my story's like all over the place. This is how my head works. I get to Puerto Rico and I walk into the Airbnb, and it was like this cute studio, high rise condo, floor to ceiling windows with the view of the city and the buildings. And I was like, wow, this is like exactly like what I asked for. Like, this is what I was envisioning for Atlanta. But the longer I stayed there, and it had this cute balcony, and I would sit on the balcony every day. I also manifested a balcony. I was like, I want my studio to have a balcony so I can like sit in the sun, and I did that like every single day I was out there. Um, but I was like sitting on that balcony, and I'd be like, I love this, but it doesn't quite feel as good as I thought it was gonna feel. Like, I wish I was looking at green, luscious mountains instead of um, buildings. And I wish I was hearing birds and nature instead of car horns and shouting and, just the noise of the city. And so it was crazy. I was like, okay, here we are again. We manifested something, and I'm kind of feeling like, um, do I want this? you know? The thing about manifestation, I'm a manifester. So I know how to manifest things. I know how to bring things into my experience. Just because you manifest a thing doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to want it or like it, um, but you're going to get it. And so what was happening was I was manifesting things, I was asking for things, I was calling things into my experience without checking in with the divine, without making sure like this was in alignment with the divine. I'm just out here just moving, just doing things like all on my own, just figuring things out all on my own, feeling like, I don't know, slightly like back in that go, go, go mentality. Like, I need to be doing this, I need to be going here, I need to be doing. And so I sat there in Puerto Rico on the balcony, and I just like really like that whole week I was just really like vibing with myself, just really checking in with myself, having a moment. And it felt like I hadn't had that since I was in the States, like since I had moved back to the States. Like, none of it in Atlanta. Like, I felt like I was so in my head the whole time, not in my body. And that was the first time I really felt in my body to like kind of like see, like, what is it that we're feeling? Like, what is it? What are we doing? What do we want? What's happening? Um, let's just do a check in. And so I was like journaling a lot, talking to myself a lot. And I was like, honestly, I miss Costa Rica. That's what would make me happy. Like, I want to go back there. I want to do it again. I want to try it again. I don't feel like my time there was up. I don't really feel going back to nursing in a new city. It wasn't a full bodied yes. Like, it was a, I could do this and I could make it work, and I know I can, like, be happy, but like it wasn't a full bodied soul yes. And when I move in life, I want everything to be a full bodied yes. Like, so I did so much praying, and talking to God and asking God, like, telling him, like, I want to go back to Costa Rica. Like, I was just like honest, like, this is what I really want. And if it's in alignment with what you also want for me, I was like, make it so. Like, I'm done doing shit on my own. I'm sorry I haven't been consulting you um, up until this point for a while, but I need help, and I want help. And so I was like, all right, we have just came to this huge realization. What are we gonna do about it? Like, we put it out there into words. Like, what are we gonna do about it? So I'm looking at plane tickets. I'm like, I already know what I want to do about it. I'm looking at plane tickets, and the date and time that worked was the 26th of February, which happened to be the same date that I was supposed to be starting my job at Emory. So I'm like, wow, it's going to be a new chapter of something, either this path of going, to nursing again, or this path of moving back out the country and following our heart and following our, true desires. And it was just like, either path is going to work out, whichever you choose. So knowing that, which one do you, if you could choose for sure which one was going to work out, knowing that both are going to work out, which one you want? And I'm like, obviously I want to go back to Costa Rica. So I bought my ticket and I emailed the job and told them, like, I don't want it. Thank you. And then, boom, I like started making arrangements, and I started giving things away again. And I, had to update my family, like, hey, actually, this is now what we're doing. And thank God they were supportive and, showed love. I mean, at this point, they kind of know that I'm like, you know, following this path that only I can see and following this voice that only I can hear. So they know not to argue with me anymore. um, So yeah, I felt so good after that decision. Like, after that decision, I felt so good. I was like, I'm going back home. Like, it made me so happy. It made me so happy to think about. Um, and then being here now, like, I feel so just back in my body, so held. And yeah, I know it was the right decision. Like, from the time that I was in Puerto Rico to the time that I came back, every single day I visualized being here. I visualized the sounds, I visualized the nature, the greenery, the people, the music. I visualized all of this, and I felt in my body, like in my heart and soul, like energetically, what do I feel like while I'm experiencing this in real time? Like, if I was there, what does it feel like in my body? I channeled that. I would channel that every single day. And that's how I ended up here. Like, that's how you manifest. And I did that every single day until I got here, and until I heard those sounds, and until I saw those images and was in the nature and back moving my body. Like, I love it. I love it. So, um, yeah, I forget what I was even supposed to be talking about. I think I was supposed to be talking about that. This is just one video. We're gonna do more. Um, but yeah, that's kind of like fast forward to how we got back to Costa Rica, and yeah, I'm the happiest I've ever been. I feel so held, so seen, so loved, so divinely guided and protected, and I just can't wait to co-create more magic while I'm here. I can't. Oh, I'm trying to find a sun. My bad. I can't wait to, like, just step into more magic, step into more of my divine feminine. That's what I was really calling into my experience for 2024. I was like, I need to be in my divine feminine. Like, I'm sick of being in my masculine. And this is the place that really brings it out. More of that on another video. But yeah, like, the things that I was asking for, the things that I was calling into my experience, it's happening, and it's happening in a way that I didn't necessarily think it was going to happen, and it's looking in a way that I didn't necessarily think it was going to look. Like I told you, I said I want the high rise studio, floor to ceiling windows. I got it, but it wasn't in Atlanta. It was in Puerto Rico, and it was just the Airbnb, but it was enough for me to know, like, I don't want that. So now I'm like full blown surrender. Like, I'm just putting my desires out there. You know, I'm talking to God, I'm checking in, I'm staying in alignment, and I'm just attracting from this space. Like, I'm just attracting, and staying in like the receiving mode. I'm, you know, operating from a state of abundance, from a state of gratitude, and I'm just so excited to see like all the beauty that's gonna come from that. So that's it for this video. We'll get into more details about other things later, but that is how we got here, and we love it. And yeah, Pura Vida, y'all.